So the other day I was driving and I had the car radio on, and somebody from the California Earthquake Authority was asking us, the listening audience, are you prepared for an earthquake? Earthquakes strike suddenly and without warning. They can occur at any time and in any season of the year. And then the speaker went on to say that it's usually only after an earthquake that people realize what they could have done to be prepared and what they could have done differently to make their home ready. Because nobody expects an earthquake. So of course my immediate thought was, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Do you know what that's from? It's from Monty Python, one of my favorite skits. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Our chief weapon is surprise. Surprise and fear are two weapons. Two are surprise and fear and ruthless efficiency. Are amongst our weapons are surprise and fear and okay, I'm going to start over. Surprise and fear, because nobody expects the coming of the Lord. Surprise and fear seem to be the two weapons that people associate when Jesus is going to come again in the parousia, or what some people call the rapture, or what some people call the second coming. And some, when you think about the rapture, what are some of the images that most people talk about when they talk about the second coming of the rapture? Anybody? None of you have heard it. They talk about this, it's going to be this catastrophic apocalypse where the earth will start shaking and the dark clouds and aliens, I don't know. But people are going to be swept up and there's going to be chaos, because if I'm driving and I'm taken up into heaven, then of course my car is going to crash into the heathen that are still behind. And that's it. All the good people are taken up and all the bad people are left, and then they have to deal with the earth in this kind of chaos, and Jesus is going to come and God's going to begin ruling the earth and will bring judgment and lightning bolts and whatever. Ever seen or heard that kind of picture described about the coming of the Lord? That's pretty much the picture that we have. That's not the picture that our text is giving us, though, but this is the text that a lot of those people use in order to talk about the second coming or the rapture. One will be taken and one will be left. So I really want us to look at that, because this is the first Sunday in Advent. And Advent are the 4 weeks before Christmas, and they're the 4 weeks that we spend preparing ourselves and anticipating the coming of Christ. Now, when we think about the coming of Christ, we usually think of that cute little baby that's going to be born, and yet that's not what we heard today. The first Sunday of Advent, every single year, is a text about the coming of Christ at the end times, when Christ will come again. And it always begins with some kind of apocalyptic text, either from Matthew or Mark or Luke, but mainly Matthew and Mark. So why do we start there? We kind of start at the ending, maybe? But Christ comes. Christ comes in the future. Christ comes to us now every day, and Christ has come as that infant. So we're going to look and see what we can get from that as we enter into this season. So Jesus begins by telling us that, like earthquakes and the Spanish Inquisition, the timing of this arrival is unknown. Not even the angels, not even the Son of God knows. Only God knows. It's like what happened to the people in Noah's time. They were getting married, they were planning weddings, they were eating and drinking. Basically, they were just living their lives. Just living their lives. And they had some proclamations given that they needed to maintain a good relationship with God, their creator, God that had called them to be a people, but they just kept living their lives. And then in an unexpected act, the flood comes, and they are not prepared for it. The only one that is prepared is Noah, because he alone has heard the voice of God in the midst of the everyday life, in the midst of living. And so, just like this, the Son of Man will take place as this divine action in the midst of our ordinary lives. And people are going to be taken by surprise. The coming of the Son of Man. Now, that term, ironically, is only used 4 times in the Gospels, and all 4 of those times are in this chapter of Matthew, Matthew 24. And the Greek word that we translate as the coming of the Son of Man is the Greek word parousia. Now, again, we think that is the parousia, the rapture, the second coming, but what this Greek word literally means is being beside, or being present, or the process of becoming present, which could mean coming or arriving. But it doesn't occur in the book of Revelation, this term. There's no fear associated with this word. There's nothing to fear in this event of one coming to be beside you, or arriving, or coming. And as for the surprise, I like the way that Brian Stockringen, who's an ELCA pastor, writes about the idea of the surprise of the coming of the Son of Man. Among good friends, he writes, and even some relatives, unexpected visits are expected. We're glad to see them, no matter how messed up the house is or our hair might be. And when a good friend or even some relatives arrive unexpectedly, we make time to visit with them. We're unprepared, but we're happy at their coming. Now, uninvited salespeople, they do not receive the same welcome. How you feel about being with people depends on the relationship that I already have or do not have with people. For those people for whom Jesus is already a part of their lives now, I don't think that the coming will be a surprise, nor do I think we will be unhappy. He already comes into our lives now. The coming one is the one who has come and who continues to come to us in our gathering around Word and Sacrament. I like that image that Brian gives us. And that's a very different picture about what Jesus coming to us is going to be about. It's not about this fire and brimstone and cursing, but it's a surprise visit from a friend, a good friend, in whom we delight at seeing. That's the image of the coming of the Son of Man that I think Matthew's talking about. And then he goes on to give 2 illustrations of men and women who are simply doing normal tasks. One, the men are working in the field, and the women are running at the mill. They're doing their normal tasks at this surprised coming of the Son of Man. And this is generally then when it says one will be taken and one will be left, that people have blown up. So I want to look at that. The Greek word for the term taken, it does not mean fly up to heaven. It doesn't mean float in the air. It doesn't mean going to heaven. It's actually an incredibly versatile verb. It can mean a whole lot of different things, none of which are flying up to heaven. Okay? I just want to get this straight. The rapture is not, this is not talking that you're going to float to heaven. I hear it all the time. Some of these possibilities, though, are to go along with, to take to join to oneself, to accept as a companion. It's the word that is used in the Transfiguration story when Jesus asks Peter, James, and John to come along with him and wait. I like that picture of taking along with you. It's also the word that's used when the fisherman and the tax collector answered Jesus' call to become disciples. They leave their nets and take along with Jesus. So in the midst of this normal, everyday activity, this unexpected visitor comes and one goes along with. One is taken with. I thought about that, about how I get taken with things that I like. Oh, I'm so taken with that. You're taken with Jesus. They go along with. And then that verb for left is equally it's a very versatile verb. And it can be translated anyway as to send away, or to let go, or to leave alone. And strangely enough, when this verb is used with the idea of sin or wrongdoing, it means forgiven. So one is taken with Jesus and one is forgiven because they weren't taken. I don't know. I kind of like, if you're looking at this image, I kind of like the idea of being left alone. That as Jesus comes as an unexpected gift, the people that already have this relationship with Jesus are surprised and happy, and they are taken with their friend. They go with their friend, and the other who doesn't have that relationship says, I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing. Just leave me alone. I'm going to be here. So which would you rather tell Jesus when he shows up at your office when you're in the midst of a project? Hey, Jesus, I just need to finish this and then I'm going to get with you, okay? So if you could actually just talk to the secretary and make an appointment, or if you want to just sit out there, there are some old magazines, but I should be done in 45 minutes. Who is it that you are taken with? Who is it that you are willing to stop your normal tasks and to be with, and to walk with, to join with as a companion? And who is it that you would rather have leave you alone? The one who finds Jesus important will follow, and the one who is unconcerned with Jesus will want to be left alone. So we have this surprise and a relationship. But Jesus also says, although you don't know, and it will be surprised, I do want you to be prepared. I want you to be somewhat prepared for this surprise arrival of your friends, because I don't want you to be like the homeowner that wasn't expecting a thief, and the thief came and took their things, and it was only after the fact that they thought about what they could have done to protect themselves or to be ready. Because Jesus says, I do want you to be ready. So how do we get ready for a surprise visit from a friend in whom we will delight at seeing? Well, you might wonder what that means. If we look at the men and women in this text, they are continuing to go through their life, to go through the day-to-day work of their life, which tells me that being prepared for Jesus means you do it every day. It is a day-to-day activity that in the midst of living your life as a baptized child of God who has been called in baptism, you are my child. We're in a relationship. That every day is a day of arrival. That you prepare yourself by every morning waking up and reminding yourself of whose you are. You are already God's. And so today you're going to live and see how Jesus comes to you this day, throughout the day. And at the end of the night to give thanks for the God, the Jesus that you have seen and encountered and been with you in that day, and you awake the next morning prepared again to see and experience Jesus in the midst of how you go through your day. The Christ who is to come is the Christ who once lived among us on earth. Those apocalyptic texts that we read about the coming, and by the way, the Bible never, ever uses the term second coming. It talks about the coming of Christ, because Christ comes every day. But Christ will come again at the end. But it's not a second coming. It's one of many. So as people of God, as people of Christ, we live in hope, expecting that in the midst of all the times we are waiting for Christ to come to us, we know that the promise is that that coming is a time of joy. It's a time of delight. It's a time of the fulfillment of the promise that we received in our baptism. Our hope in the future coming and reign of God, our hope, which means our expectation of the fulfillment, is what keeps us prepared. And it helps us to anticipate being present with the one who promises, "Lo, I am with you always until the end of the ages." Today we celebrate Christ coming now. Amen.